Season finale had a big reveal about a character named Root. What kind of role will Root have in the second season?
Oh, a very dynamic one. Amy Acker is fantastic. We love her. She's definitely an actress we want to come back to. Obviously, Finch has been abducted, so we have to reconcile that. And I think we come out of the gate and we find out what happened to Finch and what happened to Root.
Follow-up is how long will it take to find Finch?
It will not be easily resolved. Let's put it that way. And the dynamic of our show changes in a very interesting way, I think. Jonah and I, we've always talked about this, that we never like shows that have a serialized element, that something dramatic happens, there's a cliffhanger, and then you come back the next episode and it's like it never happened. We think it's dishonest and we don't want to do that. So yeah.
What about the very last scene, we're looking up into the camera, the light is blinking,
yeah.
And Reese is like, you better help me find him. Kind of got like a, Hal kind of thing, like, the machine is alive. Was that intentional or is that just my...
Absolutely. I think what we've been talking about all along, there's a science fiction element to the show in terms of machine. I guess some people, whether they call it artificial intelligence or someone like Kurzweil would talk about the singularity, but I think what we've said all along with the machine is that it's something that hasn't been, nothing to this capability has been developed before. And Reese has taken a gamble in that moment with an understanding that maybe this thing could actually communicate two ways. He doesn't know if that's the case, but we're going to find out in a hurry. When we open the pilot, not the pilot, the season premiere, we're going to see just how Finch developed that machine and what its capabilities are.
Are we going to see any other technologies that are like the machine as we go down the line?
Excuse me?
That are as advanced or that are advanced perhaps in different ways?
I don't think we're dealing with any technologies outside of it. Obviously, our show, we talked about surveillance quite a bit, and we've shown it. I think we're very... we hesitate to ever be didactic on the show about the use of surveillance. We think that there's actually a usage of surveillance that's very beneficial. It's been proven by Finch to be. So there's always that aspect of technology on the show that's ever present. But in terms of the machine is the prevailing one. So there's not a competing technology, if that's what you're asking.
The series is really great in my opinion because you grab so many subplots, and in my opinion, any of those subplots can serve as their own series.
Right.
How do you keep that balance between all the subplots and the big arc and still give everybody their time?
I don't know. I wish you would tell me.
You do it really well.
It's killing me. No, it's something we talk about. Obviously, the network we're on, a lot of the shows on the network have a standalone aspect to them. And it's very difficult in network television to have a show that you're attempting as broadcast television. You're trying to get as broad an audience as possible. So you don't necessarily want the show to be something that if someone dropped in on it, they have no idea what's going on. But at the same time, I think a lot of the people that come to this event and people that really enjoy serialized content or a mythological aspect of the show, which I think they expect in any J.J. Abrams show, or Jonah and I want to write, it's very difficult to reconcile the two. We think that we're continually walking this line. It's always an aspect of what can we advance here? How can we grow this world out further? How can we expand this world of characters and pose questions at the same time we're answering them? The nice thing I think about the premise of the show is that you have a built-in concept of there is a number that keeps coming, and you can resolve that in the week, but we always feel like there needs to be a bigger story. There needs to be this is about a bigger concept, and I think the long-term arc and aspects of the show that deal with what's happening with backstories of the characters, the flashbacks, the things that we're answering in that regard, or the villains, some of the people that you've seen come and go on the show that come back around is something that we always want to maintain.
Your character, Kara Stan, is she going to come back and be a bigger force than the character of Zoe Morgan? Are you going to see them again?
Our general rule is that if they're not dead, you'll probably see them again, even if they're in jail.
How are you keeping the balance of the morality of it?
I'm sorry, there was a big...
Yes. For the morality of the show.
Right.
When I first heard the premise, I was like, you're going to do what? It's like the antithesis of what we don't want, and yet you managed to present it as something that, well, with the right person, it's a wonderful subject.
Oh, thank you. That's very flattering. I think we're really interested in morally gray characters, or people that aren't necessarily, we have a vigilante character, which is very compelling for a lot of people. But we also have an eccentric billionaire, both characters who have stepped off the grid. And I think what's interesting is when you have gray characters, they can still do the right thing. But you can have characters that have done the wrong thing in the past who can do the right thing. I think the character Fusco, for me, is a fascinating example of this. Someone like, in a way, we're rooting for him to be better, to be a better man, and I think, or a better cop, and I think the fun of that is understanding that he has done some horrible things. He's an accessory to murder in the past, and I think people tend to forget that while they're watching the show, and then they say, well, wait a minute, it wasn't fun. And it's like, well, wait a minute, he's who are we talking about here? And I think if you had one character, I think, who's on our show who's probably most morally unambiguous, it's Detective Carter. And in some ways, we kind of see her as the heart and soul of the show, and that voice, in a lot of ways, is a moral compass for our show. But we always like the idea of we have the character of Elias has tried to kill Detective Carter and has kidnapped her son, and yet we've had to go to him once, and we probably will have to go to him again to make deals and to get information, because he's a powerful person. And the idea that there can be people that are criminals who aren't all bad, and there can be cops that are corrupt, is a really compelling world for us.